What would you do if someone made fun of you in front of hundreds of people, not knowing you held the one answer they desperately needed? Before we dive into this incredible story, please hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Viral Tales so you never miss stories that will change how you see the world. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We absolutely love hearing from you. The big hall at the University of Rio de Janeiro was packed with people. Not just any people, but the smartest language experts in all of Brazil. Professors wore fancy suits and expensive glasses. They whispered each other in different languages, showing off how clever they were. Today was special. Today, they had all gathered for one reason. On the huge screen at the front of the room, strange symbols glowed under the bright lights. These symbols had been found carved into an old stone deep in the mountains. Nobody could read them. Not one single expert in that room. And they had been trying for 3 whole hours. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez stood at the front, and he was angry, very angry. His face had turned red, and sweat dripped down his forehead, even though the air conditioning was on full blast. Dr. Rodriguez was famous. He appeared on television shows. Newspapers wrote articles about him. Everyone called him the man who speaks 30 languages. But today, these mysterious symbols made him look like he knew nothing at all. He had tried everything. He looked at the symbols as if they were old Portuguese. He compared them to African languages. He even asked his fellow professors for help. Nothing worked. The symbols just sat there on the screen, keeping their secrets locked away. And the longer Dr. Rodriguez failed, the angrier he became. At the back of the big hall, near the coffee tables, a young girl quietly wiped down the surfaces with a cloth. Her name was Maya, and she was only 16 years old. She had dark skin and wore simple clothes, nothing fancy like the professors. Her mother, Rosa, worked as a cleaner at the university. She had worked there for 12 years, scrubbing floors and emptying trash bins. During big events like this, Maya always came to help her mother earn a little extra money for their family. Maya tried to stay invisible. She had learned that people like her, poor people, black people, cleaning people, were supposed to stay quiet and out of the way. But even as she cleaned, her eyes kept drifting to that screen, to those symbols, and something stirred in her chest, something that felt like recognition. Dr. Rodriguez suddenly spun around. His eyes, wild with frustration, scanned the room until they landed on Maya. A nasty smile spread across his face, the kind of smile that meant trouble. How about we try something different? His voice boomed to the microphone, making everyone stop their whispered conversations. How about we ask that young lady over there to give a try? He pointed straight at Maya. 50 heads turned. 50 pairs of eyes stared at the teenage girl, holding a dirty cleaning cloth. The room went completely silent. So silent you could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights above. Maya froze. Her heart started beating so fast she could hear in her ears. "Marcus, please," whispered Professor Ana Silva, sitting in the front row. "This is not necessary." But Dr. Rodriguez was not listening. He was enjoying himself now. After hours of failure and embarrassment, he had found someone to make fun of, someone to make himself feel big again. No, I am completely serious," he said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Perhaps our young friend has a special insight, a more, shall we say, folksy perspective on these ancient symbols." The word folksy came out of his mouth like poison. Several professors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They knew what he was really saying. They knew it was wrong. But nobody spoke up. Nobody had the courage to challenge the famous Dr. Marcus Rodriguez. "Come now. Do not be shy," Dr. Rodriguez continued, waving his hand dramatically. "Maybe you will have better luck than all of us educated people. Maybe cleaning tables has given you magical powers." Some people in the audience laughed. Nervous, uncomfortable laughter, but laughter all the same. Maya felt her face grow hot. Rosa, Maya's mother, rushed over. Her face showed a mixture of shame and anger. "Please, sir," she said quietly. "My daughter is just here to help me work. She doesn't know anything about this. Please leave her alone." "Oh, but I insist." Dr. Rodriguez said, clearly having too much fun to stop now. I am genuinely curious. What could a cleaning girl possibly see in symbols that confuse the brightest minds in Brazil? Maya stood completely still. The cloth was still in her hands. But something was changing inside her. Her great-grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. Old Elias had told her so many stories when she was little. Stories about their ancestors. Stories about secret languages and hidden messages. Stories about people who survived because they were clever, not because they were rich or powerful. And those symbols on the screen? Maya knew them. She knew them as well as she knew her own name. Do you know what amazes me most? Dr. Rodriguez continued, walking closer to where Maya stood. It is how some people always think they understand complicated things just because, well, you know. He did not finish the sentence. He did not have to. Everyone knew what he meant. He meant that black girls from poor families had no business thinking they were smart. He meant that people like Maya should know their place. Mama, it's okay, Maya said softly. Rosa grabbed her daughter's arm. Baby, please. Let's just go. We don't need this. But Maya gently pulled her arm free. She looked at Dr. Rodriguez. Then she looked at the screen with those mysterious symbols. Then back at the cruel professor with his mean smile. Something sparkled in Maya's eyes. A few of the professors noticed it. It was not fear. It was not shame. It was something else entirely. Something that made them sit up straighter and pay closer attention. Because Maya knew something that nobody in that room suspected. She was not just a cleaning girl. She had taught herself 6 different languages by reading books from the university library while her mother worked night shifts. She had been writing to famous researchers in England using a fake name, and they respected her ideas. She had decoded ancient African languages just by listening to songs at her neighbors' religious ceremonies. But most importantly, her great-grandfather Elias had been the last person alive who knew the secret language of the Quilambos, the hidden communities of escaped slaves who had lived in the mountains over 200 years ago. They had created their own special language, so the slave hunters could not understand their messages. And those symbols on the screen? They were written in that exact language. Actually, Maya said, her voice quiet but incredibly clear, I would be happy to try. The room went dead silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. It felt like the moment before a thunderstorm, like the whole world was holding its breath. Dr. Rodriguez blinked. He had expected Maya to run away crying. He had not expected this. Well then, he said, recovering his nasty smile, by all means, come up here and enlighten us all with your wisdom. As Maya walked slowly toward the front of the room, Rosa felt tears starting to form in her eyes. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pride mixed with fear, because she knew her daughter. She knew that look on Maya's face. It was the same look her grandfather Elias had whenever someone disrespected the knowledge of their ancestors. Maya was about to show everyone that underestimating people is the biggest mistake anyone can make. And Dr. Marcus Rodriguez was about to learn the hardest lesson of his entire life. Maya walked to the front of the room with her head held high. She did not rush. She did not look scared. She moved like someone who had done this 100 times before, even though her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Dr. Rodriguez watched her approach with that mean smile still on his face. He thought he was about to watch a poor girl embarrass herself. He thought this would be funny. He had no idea he was walking straight into a trap of his own making. May I use the microphone? Maya asked when she reached the stage. Her voice was calm. Too calm. It made Dr. Rodriguez hesitate for just a second. But he was too full of himself to pay attention to that warning sign. Of course, he said with an exaggerated bow. The stage is all yours. Please share your folksy wisdom with us. A few people laughed again, but this time the laughter sounded more nervous. Something about the way Maya stood there, so quiet and dignified, was making people uncomfortable. She did not look like someone who was about to fail. She looked like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Maya adjusted the microphone. The sound echoed through the silent hall. Every single person was watching now. Even the people who had been looking at their phones put them away. The first line, Maya began, her voice clear and strong, is not old Portuguese like you've been trying to read it. Dr. Rodriguez let out a loud fake laugh. Oh, really? And how would you know what I've been trying to read it as? Because, Maya said patiently, I watched you pointing at different symbols for the past 20 minutes while I cleaned. You kept comparing them to Portuguese words from the 1600s. That is why you were stuck. Several professors gasped. She had been paying attention the whole time, learning, analyzing, while everyone thought she was just a simple cleaning girl. Professor Ana Silva leaned forward in her seat, suddenly very interested. These symbols, Maya continued, pointing at the screen, are not one language. They are a mix, a combination created on purpose by very smart people who needed to hide their messages. A mix, Dr. Rodriguez repeated mockingly. How fascinating. A mix of what exactly? Fairy tales and folk songs. But his voice had lost some of its confidence, because Maya was speaking with an authority that did not match her age or her cleaning uniform. She sounded like a real scholar, like someone who genuinely understood what she was talking about. A mix of Yoruba and indigenous languages, Maya said simply. The Yoruba came from West Africa with the enslaved people. The indigenous words came from the local tribes in the mountains. Together, they created something new, a secret language that the slave hunters could never crack, because they did not even know it existed. The room went absolutely silent. Professor Carlos Martinez, an expert in indigenous languages, sat straight up. His mouth fell open. That is impossible, Dr. Rodriguez said, but his voice shook just a little. There is no historical record of such a hybrid language. Yes, there is, Maya said softly. The record is standing right in front of you. My great-grandfather Elias taught it to me. He was one of the last people from the Quilombo communities, the hidden villages of escaped slaves in the mountains of Minas Gerais. He died 5 years ago, and he told me I was the last person he could pass the language to. The way she said it, with no drama, no begging for sympathy, just stating a simple, devastating fact, made several professors grab their pens and start writing frantically. Dr. Rodriguez felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was not going the way he had planned at all. This is ridiculous, he said, trying to laugh it off. You expect us to believe that a 16-year-old cleaning girl is the only person in Brazil who can read these symbols? What are the chances of that? Pretty good, actually, Professor Ana Silva said quietly from the front row. If her great-grandfather really was from the Quilombos, there have been rumors for years about a secret language, but we could never find anyone who still spoke it. Dr. Rodriguez glared at her. Ana, you cannot be serious. But Professor Ana was not looking at him anymore. She was looking at Maya with a mixture of excitement and respect. Please continue, Ana said to Maya, ignoring Dr. Rodriguez completely. Maya turned back to the screen. She pointed at the first symbol. This one that you thought meant mountain, she said, actually means hiding place. And this one next to it that looks like it should mean river actually means path that disappears. Professor Carlos Martinez gasped out loud. Of course, that would explain the grammatical structure we could not figure out. We were reading it too literally. The whole first line, Maya continued, translates to, with a path that disappears meets the hiding place. The Brothers of Freedom left their names. The auditorium exploded with noise. Professors started talking all at once. Some were excited. Some were skeptical. Some were pulling out their laptops to check Maya's translation against linguistic databases. Dr. Rodriguez stood frozen. His face had gone from red to pale white, because deep down, he could tell she was right. Everything she said made sense in a way that his 3 hours of work had not. This is just guessing, he said desperately. Lucky guesses based on fairy tales your grandfather told you. My great-grandfather, Maya corrected him gently, and they were not fairy tales. They were oral history. The history that your books do not include because nobody thought it was important enough to write down. That sentence hit the room like a bomb, because it was true. So many professors studied languages and history, but they only looked at written records. They never thought about the knowledge passed down through families, through stories, through songs. Especially not knowledge from poor black families. I can prove it, Maya said. How? Dr. Rodriguez demanded, his voice rising with panic now. The second line, Maya said, pointing at the screen. It says, "We speak in the tongue of two mothers, one from across the salt water, one from the old mountain. This way, the hunters of men cannot find us." She turned to look directly at Dr. Rodriguez. That line is telling us exactly what the language is. A mixture of two mother languages. One from across the ocean, Africa. One from the mountains, indigenous Brazil. It is literally explaining itself to anyone who knows how to listen. Professor Ana Silva stood up. She was practically shaking with excitement. Do you know what this means? We have been searching for evidence of linguistic hybridization among Quilombo communities for decades. This could completely change our understanding of language development in colonial Brazil. Other professors started standing too, crowding closer to the screen, checking Maya's translation, comparing notes. Dr. Rodriguez realized with growing horror that he was losing control of the situation. Worse than that, he was being proven completely wrong by the person he had chosen to humiliate. Wait, he said loudly, trying to get everyone's attention back. We cannot just accept this based on a word of a girl with no credentials, no academic training. No academic training? Professor Anna turned to face him, and her eyes were angry now. Marcus, this young woman just did in 2 minutes what 50 of us could not do in 3 hours. I think that counts for something. She could be making up, Dr. Rodriguez insisted. Then test me, Maya said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Give me any line from the inscription, Maya continued. I will translate it, right now, in front of everyone. Dr. Rodriguez felt trapped. If he said no, he would look like a coward. If he said yes, and she succeeded, his reputation would be destroyed. But his pride would not let him back down. Fine, he said. The seventh line, the one with the unusual symbol cluster that none of us could identify. Maya looked at the screen. She smiled just a little. That one is actually my favorite, she said. It says, "The wise man drowns in books while the knowing man learns from his grandmother's song." The room went dead silent. Then Professor Carlos Martinez started laughing. Not mean laughter. Amazed, delighted laughter. "It is perfect," he said. "Do you not see? The inscription is not just giving information. It is teaching a lesson. It is telling us that academic knowledge is not the only knowledge, that we should not dismiss oral tradition and family wisdom." He looked at Dr. Rodriguez meaningfully. It is telling us not to judge people by their position in society, to not assume that someone cleaning floors cannot also be brilliant. Dr. Rodriguez felt the walls closing in, because everyone in that room was now looking at him with understanding of exactly what he had done, how he had humiliated Maya based on nothing but prejudice and arrogance. But what Dr. Rodriguez did not know yet was that Maya had one more surprise waiting for him, one that would not just embarrass him, but completely destroy his career. Because Maya was not just a great-granddaughter of a Quilombo elder. She was also someone else. Someone he had been communicating with for over a year. Someone whose work he had praised highly in academic journals. And she was about to reveal exactly who she was. Maya took a deep breath. Her mother Rosa was still standing at the back of the room, tears streaming down her face. But they were not tears of shame anymore. They were tears of pride. Pure, overwhelming pride in her brilliant daughter. "Dr. Rodriguez," Maya said, her voice steady and clear, "before I translate the rest of this inscription, I need to tell you something." The famous linguist crossed his arms over his chest. He looked like a cornered animal, angry and desperate. "What now? More folk wisdom from your grandfather." "Actually," Maya said, "I need to tell you about the email you received last Tuesday. The one from S.E. Mendez about the paper on African language preservation in South America." Dr. Rodriguez froze. His face went completely blank. Several professors who knew about his recent correspondence perked up with interest. "You remember that email, right?" Maya continued. "The one where S.E. Mendez pointed out 3 major errors in your latest research paper. The one where you argue that Yoruba had no significant influence on Brazilian Portuguese." Professor Ana Silva gasped. Wait, you are S.E. Mendez? Who is S.E. Mendez? Someone in the back asked. Professor Carlos Martinez stood up, his hands shaking. S.E. Mendez has been publishing groundbreaking research on language preservation for the past 4 years. Papers have been cited by Oxford, Cambridge, and the Sorbonne. I have read everything Mendez has written. It is brilliant work. He turned to stare at Maya in complete shock. You are S.E. Mendez? Maya nodded simply. Sarah Elias Mendez. Sarah is my middle name. Elias was my great-grandfather. Mendez was his surname before slavery forced our family to change it. The room exploded. Professors were talking over each other, some pulling out their phones to check academic databases, others just sitting there with their mouths hanging open in disbelief. Dr. Rodriguez looked like he had been punched in the stomach because he remembered that email. He remembered dismissing it. He remembered thinking that S.E. Mendez was probably some bitter old academic jealous of his fame. He had even written a snarky response. That is impossible, he whispered. S.E. Mendez corresponds with professors at Oxford. Real professors. Published researchers. Yes, Professor Anna said, pulling out her own phone. I have exchanged emails with Mendez myself about the linguistic patterns in candomblé ceremonies. The work was extraordinary. She looked up at Maya with wonder in her eyes. How old were you when you started publishing? 12, Maya said. I could not use my real name because I knew nobody would take a child seriously, especially not a poor black girl with no formal education. So I created the pseudonym. I have been corresponding with researchers all over the world for 4 years now. Dr. Rodriguez felt his entire world crumbling. Every email he had smugly dismissed. Every paper he had criticized without knowing who wrote it. All of it had come from the 16-year-old girl he had just tried to humiliate in front of 50 colleagues. This still does not prove, he tried one last time, his voice weak, that your translation is accurate. Actually, it does, Professor Carlos said firmly. He was looking at his laptop screen. I just cross-referenced the grammatical structures Maya identified with a database of indigenous languages from Minas Gerais. Everything matches perfectly. The verb placement, the symbolic representations, all of it. He looked at Dr. Rodriguez with disappointment. She is right, Marcus. She has been right this whole time, and you were too busy being cruel to see it. Let me finish the translation, Maya said softly. Then you can all verify it properly. She turned back to the screen and began reading, her voice growing stronger with each line. Where the path that disappears meets the hiding place, the brothers of freedom left their names. We speak in the tongue of 2 mothers, one from across the salt water, one from the old mountain. This way, the hunters of men cannot find us. Our children will carry these words in their hearts. They will teach their children and their children's children. The wise man drowns in books, while the knowing man learns from his grandmother's song. We are not slaves. We are not property. We are people. We are free. And freedom speaks in whatever language it chooses. By the time Maya finished, there was not a dry eye in the auditorium. The message was so powerful, so beautiful, that even professors who had laughed at her earlier felt ashamed of themselves. The final line, Maya said, her own voice thick with emotion, says, if you can read these words, then we succeeded. Our voice survived. Tell our story. She turned to face the audience. That is what my great-grandfather Elias did. He kept the language alive. He taught it to me before he died. And today, I am telling their story. The story of brilliant people who created something beautiful out of desperate circumstances. People who knew that knowledge and wisdom can come from anywhere, not just from universities and fancy degrees. Professor Anna started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Then Professor Carlos joined her. Then another professor and another. Soon the entire auditorium was standing, applauding Maya with genuine respect and admiration. Everyone except Dr. Marcus Rodriguez. He stood alone at the side of the stage, his face pale, his career crashing down around him, because everyone in that room now knew what he had done. They knew he had tried to humiliate a teenage girl based purely on her skin color and social class. They knew he had dismissed groundbreaking research because he did not know it came from someone he considered beneath him. Professor Anna walked up onto the stage. She put her hand gently on Maya's shoulder. On behalf of the University of Rio de Janeiro, I want to apologize. What happened here today should never have happened. And I want to personally invite you to present your research at our next linguistics conference as a featured speaker with your real name. Maya looked at her mother. Rosa was sobbing openly now, overcome with emotion. I would like that, Maya said, but I need to ask something first. Anything, Professor Anna said. My mother has worked at this university for 12 years. She cleans your offices, your classrooms, your bathrooms. She works hard every single day. And not once has anyone bothered to learn her name or ask about her life. Not once has anyone treated her like she matters. The professors who had laughed earlier looked down at their feet, ashamed. If you really want to apologize, Maya continued, then stop treating people like they're invisible just because they do not have fancy titles. Stop assuming that the person cleaning your office is less intelligent than you are. Stop judging people by their job or their skin color instead of by their character and their mind. The silence that followed was heavy with guilt and realization. You are absolutely right, Professor Anna said quietly. We have all failed, myself included. She turned to face the audience. Maya has taught us something far more important than how to translate an ancient inscription. She has taught us that brilliance can come from anywhere, that we should never, ever dismiss someone based on superficial things like their job or their background. Then she turned to Dr. Rodriguez, her face hard. Marcus, I think you need to leave. The university board will be hearing about what happened here today. All of it. Dr. Rodriguez opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. What could he say? Everything Maya had said was true. He had been cruel, prejudiced, and arrogant, and now everyone knew it. He grabbed his briefcase and walked out of the auditorium. His footsteps echoed in the silent room. Everyone watched him go, knowing that his reputation was destroyed. The famous polyglot who spoke 30 languages but had forgotten the most important lesson of all, respect. After he left, Maya walked down from the stage. Her mother rushed forward and wrapped her in a tight hug. My baby, Rosa whispered. My brilliant, beautiful baby. I am so proud of you. Maya hugged her mother back, finally letting herself feel all the emotions she had been holding inside. Relief, triumph, but also sadness for all the time she had to hide who she really was just to avoid situations like this. Professor Carlos approached them carefully. Maya, your great-grandfather Elias. Did he leave any other records? Any other documents about the Quilombo language? Maya wiped her eyes and nodded. He left notebooks, dozens of them, filled with vocabulary, grammar structures, historical stories, everything. I have been digitizing them for the past 2 years. Would you? Professor Carlos hesitated. Would you consider sharing them for research purposes? We would credit you fully, of course, and compensate you properly. Maya smiled. I will share them freely. My great-grandfather always said that knowledge should not be locked away. It should be shared so it can live on. That is why he taught me. So the language would not die. You are remarkable, Professor Anna said. Truly remarkable. Over the next few days, the story spread throughout Brazil and then around the world. Videos of Maya's translation went viral on social media. News channels interviewed her. Universities invited her to speak. The research she had been publishing under her pseudonym was suddenly celebrated everywhere. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez tried to defend himself on television, but the damage was done. The video of him mocking Maya had been recorded by someone in the audience. Everyone could see his cruelty, his racism, his arrogance. One by one, universities stopped inviting him to speak. His book deals were canceled. His television appearances ended. His career, built on 30 languages, was destroyed by his failure to understand the most basic language of all, kindness. Maya, on the other hand, was offered a full scholarship to any university in Brazil. She chose to stay in Rio de Janeiro, where she could be close to her mother. She enrolled in the linguistics program, and by the time she was 18, She had already published 3 more papers that changed how scholars understood language development in South America. Her mother, Rosa, got a new job too. The university hired her as a cultural liaison, connecting the academic world with the communities that held knowledge that professors had never bothered to learn about. She traveled to Colombo communities, recorded oral histories, and helped preserve traditions that had almost been lost. But the most important change happened in that auditorium. The professors who witnessed what happened that day never forgot it. They started looking at the world differently. They stopped assuming that the only people worth listening to were the ones with expensive degrees and important titles. They learned that wisdom can live in grandmothers who never went to school, that brilliance can hide behind a cleaning uniform, that the person you dismiss today might be the genius you need tomorrow. As for Maya, she graduated top of her class at age 20. She became the youngest professor ever hired by the University of Rio de Janeiro. And every semester, on the first day of class, she told her students the same thing her great-grandfather Elias used to tell her. Real wisdom does not shout. It whispers to those who know how to listen. So keep your ears open, your heart humble, and your mind free from prejudice. Because you never know where your next great lesson will come from. It might come from a book. It might come from a professor, or it might come from someone the whole world has taught you to ignore. She always paused then, remembering that day in the auditorium. And if you ever find yourself in a position of power, use it to lift people up, not push them down. Because the measure of your intelligence is not how many languages you speak or how many degrees you have. It is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. It is whether you have the wisdom to recognize brilliance, even when it comes wrapped in unexpected packages. Years later, Maya published a book about her great-grandfather and the secret language of the Colombos. It became an international bestseller. She dedicated it to 2 people, to Elias, who taught her that knowledge is power, and to Rosa, who taught her that dignity is strength. The book's final line read, "Never judge someone by where they stand in the moment you meet them. Judge them by where they came from, what they overcame to get there, and where they're brave enough to go. Because sometimes the person cleaning the floors knows more about the foundation than the person standing on top of it." Dr. Marcus Rodriguez read that book. Sitting alone in his small apartment, no longer famous, no longer celebrated, he finally understood what he had lost that day. Not just his career, not just his reputation, but the chance to learn from someone extraordinary. The chance to be part of something beautiful instead of something cruel. Some mistakes can be fixed, but some mistakes teach lessons that last forever. Maya taught everyone in that auditorium an unforgettable lesson about respect, about humility, and about the danger of judging people by their circumstances instead of their character. She proved that true genius does not need permission to shine. It just needs someone brave enough to let it. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person everyone underestimates turns out to be the person everyone should have been learning from all along. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Viral Tales for more incredible true stories that will change how you see the world. And remember, treat everyone with respect, because you never know who might be a hidden genius waiting for their moment to shine. Drop a comment below telling us what you learned from Maya's story. We love hearing from you.